It's Wednesday, October 31st, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we debut our first intern segment on young voters, learn more about how the town of Barnstable is helping new restaurants open, and bark for joy. Today is the ribbon cutting for the new Barnstable Dog Park. Let's start with some news you can use. There is still plenty of time this fall for road construction, and we have a slew of project updates for you today. MassDOT continues their roadway improvements for the Route 28 intersection, improvements at Beers' Way, as scheduled. The new detour of traffic will be Wednesday, October 31st from 7 a.m. until 12 p.m. The westbound lane of Route 28 will be detoured at the intersection of Route 28 and Beers' Way. Traffic will be directed north on Beers' Way, then directed southeast down Pitcher's Way. The end of the detour will occur as traffic migrates back to Route 28. Over on the south side of town, Smith Street in Hyannis will be getting its new pavement on Thursday, November 1st. Work is expected to be completed by Friday, November 2nd, weather permitting. Vehicle access during construction operations will be restricted to one lane. And finally, on the north side, DPW will be performing drainage structure repairs on various sections of Finney's Lane and Hyannis Road between Addicts Lane and the intersection with Route 6A in Barnstable Village, beginning again on Thursday, November 1st. Failed sections of pavement around the structures will also be removed and replaced with new asphalt pavement. Work is expected to be completed by Friday, November 9th, weather permitting. The drainage repairs and paving operations are both mobile activities that will proceed along one travel lane at a time. Vehicle access will be restricted to one lane around the mobile operations. As always, please slow down and use extreme caution when traveling through road construction areas and detour routes, and follow posted safety and detour signs. How do young adults learn about voting, the issues and candidates? Our Channel 18 intern, Seamus Shropshire, attended a candidates forum this past September for area high schools at Barnstable High School that was sponsored by the JFK Hyannis Museum. Students met candidates running for office or re-election and had a chance to talk about the issues that affect them in a panel session.
I think an event like this is really informative for students. They get a chance to meet the candidates, and they get a chance to hear the issues and hear the candidates' individual take on these issues. So whenever you get a forum like this with politicians, individuals running for office, and you have a chance to listen to them and ask questions of them, then I think this is a great opportunity for students to learn.
You know, it's time for another generation, people who are the product of different times, and that's who you all are. And so we need your voices, and we need your interest, and we need your votes.
Throughout the past year, high school students nationwide have created a movement through nationwide demonstrations demanding that action be taken on the federal and state level to combat gun violence.
Find your voice and speak up. Because when we do that, when we find the courage to speak and talk about our own experiences, really powerful, amazing things can happen. So I'd encourage you to do that and see what happens.
We have seen for decades now an effort to increase youth voter participation. And there's a lot of factors that contribute to it. Does an event like this help? Absolutely. You need momentum. So it's meeting with these individuals running for office or seeking to be reelected. It's getting people registered to vote, and then getting to show up and vote.
Young people learning about the democratic process, interacting with folks who are leaders, folks who are hoping to become leaders, and understanding the thoughtful ideas behind democracy.
It's time for you, the next generation, to take over. If you're 18, make sure you're registered to vote. If you're not 18 yet, advocate, join a committee, start a committee, get involved with your towns, get involved with the community. We need you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
thought about opening a restaurant? Here in the town of Barnstable, we have a new publication to help you navigate through the licensing, permitting, and all the important details to get you up and cooking in no time. Mike Travato, Economic Development Specialist, has all the details on the new restaurant guide. Opening a business in the town of Barnstable can be a daunting project at the least. Opening a restaurant, so many I's, so many T's to dot and cross. With me today, Economic Development Specialist Mike Travato with a brand new piece for restaurants that will actually make this process smoother and more informed so people can open their restaurants fairly quickly, not quickly, but at least easily in the town of Barnstable. This is a wonderful piece. So this guide is just released, right?
Yes, just released.
Just released. And why did you make it? Why did the town of Barnstable make opening a restaurant guide?
Sure. So the guide is a collaborative effort between multiple departments, the regulatory departments within the town, seeing a need to fill a need. Restaurants are much more daunting process to get open than most businesses because of all the regulations that are required to be overseen with them. And so the determination was made that it would be helpful to have a step-by-step guide to kind of help new restaurants through that process when they need to go and get permitted to open their business.
Okay, we're going to quantify this just a little bit. This would be somebody moving into an existing building that is either already been a restaurant or perhaps had been retrofitted for a restaurant, not necessarily complete and new construction.
It actually applies to all, Paul,
Okay.
but someone that's going to from A to Z with building a restaurant from scratch, it's got to be a more detailed process than ones that are going into an existing building that is specifically fit up for a restaurant, or even something that could be readily retrofitted without major renovation.
Okay, so let's talk about regulatory process and departments here. This is a collaborative effort. I mean, there's a whole lot of people involved in this process.
Absolutely. 7 different departments were involved in putting this guide together. Everything from the planning department, building, health, licensing, the fire department, water department, DPW. Hope I didn't miss anyone. And the health department, we're all involved in this process.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the process and what this guide will help a new business do.
Sure. So the idea on the guide is to help someone that's coming in right from the beginning. Hopefully can get them to go into a voluntary informal site plan review process where they can go into the room with all these different disciplines and talk to each of the departments about what their needs are going to be going forward so that they can fully understand the scope of what's ahead of them. And the guide gives them that step-by-step process with that.
Okay, let's take some of these departments on their own here. So if you're the building department, what's in this guide that's going to help me?
Sure. So the building department deals with building permits, sign permits, all the building codes that are going to be required relative to opening a restaurant, handicap accessibility, ADA compliance, and plumbing and wiring, among other things.
Okay, that's a hefty list in one department already, right?
Sure. And by the way, they're on the final end of the process too. I might point out that in order to open any business, the final step is to get a certificate of occupancy, and that's done through the building commissioner.
Okay, health. We're all really concerned with making sure that we are in a restaurant that's passed inspections and things like that. So, what are some of the things in the guide that will help with the health department?
Sure. So the health department deals with food licenses. They have to get a food license, a common victual license. I'm sorry, that's on the licensing side.
Right.
They weigh in on grease trap necessities. I'm sorry,
Right.
And all health code compliances.
Okay, and then licensing. Here's another big one that seems to trip people up because they don't realize that they need specific things as they move through the process.
Sure. Food service establishments need a common victual license.
Right.
If you're doing entertainment, you'll need an entertainment license. If you're doing alcohol, you're going to need an alcohol license. So those are if you're doing sidewalk dining on the town sidewalk, you'll need to get a sidewalk dining permit as well.
Okay, and planning and development, where do they fit into this process?
Sure. First and foremost, they help in zoning, whether that's an allowed use and where they want to locate. So they do the review on that to make sure. And also, if there is a need from any kind of a historic perspective, if they're in a historic district, planning department oversees the different historic boards as well. So for instance, if a restaurant's opening in downtown Hyannis, that's in the Hyannis Historic District. They would have to go in front of Hyannis Historic to get approvals for any facade changes or signage or even sidewalk dining kind of things.
Okay, that's interesting. And then water and fire departments, I thought this was kind of interesting. We're not talking just Hyannis, the rest of us, even in the mills eat. So we have restaurants too. But our water departments and our fire departments are a little bit fragmented. So let's talk about water department first. There's some considerations when you're opening up a restaurant for water departments.
Sure. So for water, obviously we need to make sure we have sufficient water supply for you. So each of the water departments, depending on which jurisdiction you're in, would check to make sure that you have adequate water flow for that restaurant itself. I'll step over into the hot fire next.
Sure.
And again, same thing, depending on the jurisdiction. We have 5 fire districts, so the applicable fire department would be represented in that regard. They could be working at everything from sprinkler needs, fire suppression in the kitchen, near the range, hood requirements for ventilation in that regard, emergency exits, the typical fire safety needs that you would be required for a restaurant for public safety.
Right. So one of the things that I noticed about this right off the bat is that they are phone numbers for every department listed right there for you to pick up the phone and talk to folks.
Sure. This is obviously a real handy guide to give
Right.
you all that information right at your fingertips. You'll know which department you need to speak to, who you need to speak to. If you do go through that informal process, you'll get a face-to-face with each department, applicable person in that department who you will then become your point of contact, or they'll assign someone to you, and you'll know exactly who you need to talk to going forward in that regard.
Right. So let's talk about this a little bit. There's a position out there that is a coordinator for these site plans, these mini site plan meetings that you're doing, these informal meetings. Talk about that position. Is that the person who holds your hand through this process?
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Yeah.
Our site plan review coordinator is responsible for for the site plan review committee as administrative duties with the formal site plan review. So as part of that process with our recommendation that even businesses, especially restaurants that don't need to go through formal site plan, they're welcome to have a meeting with the site plan review committee informally, in a conference room to be able to talk all at once about what their needs are going to be. And by having this one person, in this case, Ellen Swiniarski does that work for us right now. And Ellen can help hold your hand through that process to help make sure you talk to all the right departments. Even if you don't sit down for that informal site plan review, she can at least direct you to who to talk to.
Right. And again, restaurants are so varied. You can make donuts, or you can make yogurt. I mean, they may have different things that they'll need through this regulatory process, depending, it's not a sit down or it's a sit down. So there's so many things to consider. What do you want residents and business owners to know about this process and how to get one of these guides?
Sure. Our advice is that you do take advantage of the opportunity to sit down in the room with all of our regulatory departments all at the same time, so you don't have to go one-on-one with them. It's going to save you a ton of time, but also make sure that you crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. So what the guide is designed to do is to kind of help give you an overview of that process. It's not detailed. It's not designed to be an everything, comprehensive guide. It really is a step-by-step guide to make sure you see all the proper people before you go and get your final certificate of occupancy. That's the bottom line. Is once you've gone through all your processes, building commissioner will issue you a certificate of occupancy so you can open your business and we can enjoy your food.
Excellent. And where can we get these guides?
The guides will be available first and foremost online at our businessbarnstable.com website.
Okay.
I believe it's also going to be on the town's website as well. But the hard copies will be available here at Town Hall, 367 Main Street, available at 200 Main Street where the regulatory offices are. We're also going to be distributing through the Chambers of Commerce, Business Improvement District, the village business associations, and also the commercial business brokers. I think they're a good resource to get this information in on the early end, because they're usually representing the businesses on the front end that are looking to open a restaurant.
Right. And I have to tell you that it's a really nice piece. It's very easy to read. The infographic is incredibly helpful. It shows people kind of where they start and how they navigate through this process. Well done, Mike.
Well, thank you, Paul. I can't stress enough how much of a collaborative effort this was between departments. To see such an interdepartmental collaboration in this thing was just tremendous.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks.
1 bark, 2 barks, 3 barks for the Barnstable Dog Park. Join the town of Barnstable today at 3 p.m. for the ribbon cutting at the town of Barnstable's first dog park. Funded by a generous grant from the Stanton Foundation and the Friends of Barnstable Dog Parks, has all the amenities your furry friends have dreamed of. Sarah Beal headed out to the park to talk to dog park manager Nina Coleman for some last-minute information on rules and regulations.
So Nina, dog park is finally opening. We have the date for the ribbon cutting.
We do.
It's Wednesday, October 31st.
3 p.m. We're gonna cut the ribbon, get folks in here. Got a few more things to do on the punch list. Gates would be nice, but they're supposed to be in by the 31st.
Nice.
And so we want to get it open. We don't want to have it ready and not have it open. So we're just kind of pushing that date.
Yep.
The water is in. The bubblers aren't in, but there's water available for the dogs. And it should be good to go after that.
Yeah, so the town manager you guys had the hearing yesterday about all the rules and regulations. Expect him to approve all those rules and regulations any day now, hopefully before the 31st when you guys have the ribbon cutting. So let's go over some of those, because we just want to make sure people are aware of some of the rules. The dog park will be open 7 days a week, 365 a year, because it's not manned. There's no one here that's working.
Right, that's correct. And there are some days that we will have to close for maintenance.
Maintenance, okay.
And we don't intend to plow or shovel. And so that's up front, so that we're not going to have this be the the first thing that we address during a snowstorm.
Right.
Obviously.
This is low on the list, if at all.
Right. Exactly.
Which people need to understand. And dogs. I know most dogs I know don't even want to go outside in the snow. So.
It depends on the dog.
This is true. This is true.
Some of them love it, but
yeah.
It's Cape Cod. I'm from Vermont, so I don't think it's very snowy here. But
yeah.
It will preclude some dog park time of the year. But for the most part, 7 days a week, dawn to dusk. Obviously, we don't want people in here at night.
Right.
And so it'll all be signed as such. Hopefully, all the signs will be up by the 31st as well, with all the regulations that you're speaking to.
Right. And there's no lighting here. So definitely another reason to stay away when it's not between sunrise and sunset. Those are, you don't want to be here when it's dark anyway. So
yeah, right.
Some of the other things that we want to talk about is the parking here is for the dog park only. This is not parking for Hathaway's Pond. This is not parking here, walking down to the village or walking up to Hyannis. This is dog park parking only.
That's right. And you could see the importance of that. Certainly, it's going to be more of a conflict in the summer. We certainly don't want people, parking here and not having to pay as a way to get away from paying the price of the pond. But also, more to the point, we want to make sure that we have parking available for dog park patrons. So that's really the intent there, is not to just hammer on people, but to make sure that somebody who's coming legitimately using the park, there's only 12 spots. we want to make sure they can pull in with ease.
One of the great things I noticed that there are some handicap spots. There's a van accessible spot, and there's a regular handicap spot. So we want to make sure people don't use those spots and use them properly. I know there's a lot of people out there that thinks that handicap spots are kind of a free-for-all, but they're not. They're for handicapped people only, and as such should be used that way. We also want to talk about there's no other animals that are allowed in here, which I think at first I was like, well, duh. But then you think about, you know, a lot of people have different pets and things that they might be like, oh, I'd love to take my ferret down to the
So I had not known that that was an issue, and as I've been wading into this topic and speaking to other towns and other friends groups, it is an issue. You know, I also manage Sandy Neck, and so we have a resident pig that comes to Sandy Neck. There isn't anything that says it can't. Certainly parrots would be another issue. People bring their cats.
Yeah.
So
some people do put their cats on leashes.
So we're
not the place for the cat on the leash.
This is not a good spot for that. We're just trying to clarify, you know, the boundaries here.
Right.
Yep.
You also want to make sure your dog is leashed upon entering the park and exiting the park. There is kind of like a gated area where you it's kind of like if, for lack of a better explanation, kind of like going in the Panama Canal, like a lock.
A double gate.
A double gate. You go into one section, shut the gate behind you, and then go into the next section. You want to make sure your dog is leashed while you're entering and exiting. That way they don't run away. This is a busy road behind us, so you know you don't want your dog getting loose and running away. So it's important to remember to do that. And it also, there's different collars that aren't allowed in the park.
Right. So for safety's sake for the dog and for other dogs, we don't want any pinch collars, any spiked collars. They do need to have a collar on with their tags, and that also, you know, so that we know that they have their identification and their information about vaccinations on there, but also so that if somebody needs to reach in and get their dog, there is a collar on them. But certainly there's a lot of rough play that happens in here, and any sort of spike collar, pinch collar could get hooked on something, and we don't want that to happen.
No, that's not a good thing. All dogs that are in here do need to be vaccinated, and no puppies under 3 months, because they usually by that point they haven't had their vaccinations yet.
Right.
So it's important things to remember. And the rules are here to make sure everyone is safe and everyone's happy. All the dogs are happy, the owners are happy. So it sounds like a lot, but it's any dog park you go to, you're going to run into this very similar regulations.
Almost exactly. Same, you know, we obviously looked at other parks, spoke to other groups, because they've had the chance to flesh out the issues. So this is a good starting point. I think we really vetted these that sounds funny, but we really went through the whole process of hearing everybody's take on these regulations. So I think it's a good start. Obviously, there's going to be growing pains, and we recognize that, and we'll adjust as we need to. There are 3 areas in this park. The training area does have some additional leniency with regard to those pinch collars and so forth, so people can do training in there, have dog treats in there. The main area that we're in, which is huge, is sort of a free-for-all for dog size, little guys, big guys, whatever.
But know your dog.
Know your dog. You can obviously know aggressive dogs. And so this is the area, like the big play area, but people do have to have the appropriate dog in here.
Right, and then there's a small dog area.
There's a small dog area. And so that's a small area, but some of those small dogs are intimidated by the big guys. Not all of them. I've seen some small dogs that are the ruler of the roost. But we have all these options here for all the different user groups.
I think that the park came out amazing.
I do too.
Big thanks to the Stanton Foundation for helping to make this happen, because without them, wouldn't have been possible, and the Friends of Barnstable Dog Parks. So we just want to remind everyone again, the big grand opening, ribbon cutting, to do October 31st, 3 p.m. Costumes welcome.
Costumes are welcome. Dog treats available. It is by intent a very quick celebration. We want to get this thing open. I know that the Friends group is likely going to do some additional celebratory events in the future, but this is really just an opportunity to get that ribbon cut, acknowledge everybody, and just get it going.
Yeah.
So
I know so many people are excited. I wish I had a dog so I could bring down here. I'm going to have to steal my brother's dog and bring him down here and have some fun. Nina, thanks for meeting us out here.
Thank you, Sarah.
Here's a look at the spooky community calendar. There's some safe trick-or-treating events for you and your kids tonight. Spooktacular Mall, wide Trick or treat 3 to 5 p.m. Tuesday at the Cape Cod Mall, Hyannis. Come in costume to trick or treat at participating stores, and it's free. Also tonight, safe trick or treat 4 to 6 p.m. Tuesday all along Main Street, Hyannis. Happy Halloween. Comments, suggestions, accolades, connect with us on Facebook and Instagram, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works. For you, I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.